Hello, I'm Professor Zach, and welcome to Zachipedia. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to conclude of what this YouTube channel is. Zachipedia is a world history learning center, you could say, where I want this video to inspire people to study and to learn more about history in general, and do well on their next test. And not to mention, have a good conversation for on-team soirees or dinner parties. Now, before I get started on today's episode, I'd like to also say how this channel is formatted. Now, this month's subject spotlight is invasions that are practically unheard of, or wars that are practically unheard of. Now, today's episode is about the invasion of Grenada. Most people know or have heard of it, but don't really know the who, what, where, why, and when. And was it? Where was it? And why and when? Well, in this video, we'll learn all about this and how it makes sense. For some people wonder, why would we invade the small, minuscule, non-threatening island of Grenada all the way in the South Caribbean? Well, that will all make sense in just a few minutes. Before we get real information on the invasion, I'd like to first off with some background information. Now, in 1971, Grenada became independent, or Grenada and Antilles, which was his full name, became independent from the Netherlands. After that, of course, nearby superpowers like the US and Venezuela sent in and tried to found a capitalist democracy or republic like theirs to make it the perfection country and to have peace and time flourish. Unfortunately, this didn't really happen. But 12 years later, in 1983, the newly elected president, Gerhard Geary, overthrew the other branches of government and became dictator. Why, do you ask? Well, Geary was actually appointed by the US. Why? Because he was actually a liar. He said that he supported the capitalist democracy, and that he wanted to continue it and make it thrive for later generations. He also said that he wanted to Americanize Grenada more, and that it should have free trade routes and disincline to communism. Exactly, this was his exact opposite. For one of the big coups was that Geary was a communist. The US, of course, couldn't just go in immediately, but a few things did provoke them to begin invasion. Geary supported Marxist coups, or communist organizations, all around Grenada, and began spreading them into other islands. And later in 1983, he sent a Marxist coup to the city of Pacheco in Venezuela. They killed anyone who were forced or who refused to convert to Marxism. Another big factor was when Geary had a secret meeting, which they discovered through espionagists from Florida, who had discovered a videotape with Cuban dictator Fidel Castro, another nearby communist country in the Caribbean, who also supported Geary on his communist rule. Geary complied that, with the help of Cuba, they could bomb parts of the US, cause a terrorist act, and possibly even annex parts of the US, as they were stricken in fear. Of course, Castro said he'd think about it, but most historians believe that he didn't really care and that he didn't really want to, because he thought it would fail. Now, after this, the US decided to take action, and in 1983, they officially invaded. The US sent from Miami and sent about 5,000 troops to the capital of Grenada, St. Jorge's. However, they thought it would be an easy invasion. Technically it was, but not as simplistic as they believed. For the Grenadians fought in waves. The first wave was as low as 678 people, but then they would end up spiking to 10,000 people. Or, yes, 10,000. Now, due to this, Grenada was still technically weak, and the US, in just a couple of months, easily won and invaded the nation of Grenada. Now, where is it today? What happened to it? Well, Eventually, U.S. troops left Grenada and began to cease occupying it, but it is still an overseas colony of the U.S. today, and the people, believe it or not, aren't actually very thrilled. One of the reasons is because they actually liked Geary and his rule, for they thought that capitalism and democracy just wasn't working out, and that Marxism and communism was the best way to rule, and they liked his ideology and plans for invasion and expansion. Why? Well, because 97% of the Grenadian population were all poor, and Geary was also once poor. However, he decided that since he knew their ideology and knew their plans, he could easily make the best fit for them. Now, Geary's legacy didn't just end there. He was sent to prison after the U.S. annexed Grenada at actually Fort George. However, he didn't stay there for long, for in 1985, about 2 years after they invaded, he actually escaped, and he escaped through a boat. Now, that boat, though, was a small frigate, and the U.S. troops could easily follow him. However, since he knew he was going to be captured eventually, he actually turned around and slammed his boat to a massive collision into the guards, killing all 10 American troops after him and himself. Now, this video, I hope, taught you all about the invasion of Grenada, and I hope it was extremely interesting and fun along the way. Now, I hope you'll watch more of my Zachipedia videos. They come out about every week, and there's a new spotlight every month. Thank you for watching.